Welcome everybody. We're back at Everybody Struggles. We got a dope, super inspirational guest. It's my boy Bryce.
Yes, sir.
Welcome, my brother.
No, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's all good, man. The cool thing about Bryce is he's a musical artist, very talented, Howard alum, even though
Hey, sure. Come on, now you know what it is.
But anyways, he has a nonprofit called the Black Neighborhood. I know a ton about you. If you could tell the world a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what you're currently working on.
Yeah, so like you said, independent rapper, entrepreneur. I think, but most importantly, like a leader in my community, in my environment, and that's what I pretty much stand for. From East Oakland, California, all that good stuff.
So, how was it growing up in the East and, growing up in the Bay Area? I know a little bit about it, but not too many people know.
Yeah, so growing up in Oakland, I think you got the best of both worlds. I was fortunate enough to have outlets like sports
Right.
and music and just family to kind of keep me out of trouble. But at the same time, it was one of those things where trouble always found a way to find you.
Yeah.
But I learned so much in the midst of, being in both of those where I saw the good and I saw the bad of what life had to offer. And that gave me like just an overall, I think, better perspective to be able to just handle any challenges and obstacles that come my way.
Man, that's
moving
beautiful.
forward.
That's beautiful. I wish we could all, have that mentality.
Yeah.
And I think that's just the difference between growing up in the Bay, like really seeing the streets for what the streets are, and then
Right.
also seeing, the other side.
Exactly.
That's the beautiful part. My next question is, we're going to go a little more deeper. What's the hardest thing you've ever had to deal with?
Yes, it's funny because when I saw this question, prior to the interview, I was thinking like, damn, like I feel like there's a lot of different things that I've experienced throughout my life that were hard, that were difficult in that moment. And so I would say there's two things that stand out in terms of like most recently. One thing that I personally didn't necessarily deal with personally, but saw my mother, she struggled with depression, like deep, severe depression for years. And it was more when I was younger. Going to Howard is when it really started. And so me coming back was my first time really getting a firsthand glimpse of what that really felt like. And so the hardest part about that was one that I knew that it was something that it's nothing that I could personally do to change that. So it was that, but then also it was a learning curve because we grew up in, the Black community, mental health is a stigma. So it's like, you say that something's wrong with you. It's like, what you mean? Like, just get over it. And that was my mentality, not understanding the severity of just mental health and something like depression. And so it was working through that. And then really I had a lot of anger towards my mother, which I later learned and kind of like unpacking it was really fear for her. So that would come out in me lashing out and just different stuff that, wasn't right, but that was the process. And so just learning so much from her experience, and then also having other family members deal with mental health, it was just so much that I learned from it. And so I would say that that's the hardest thing that I had to deal with, is seeing my my people, my loved ones, my mother, somebody I love with all my heart, go through that and not being able to necessarily do anything about that, but just be there to support her and be patient and kind of help her know that she's loved and appreciated. And so she's way much better space now, but it was a lot of years that were dark for her, and I was right there experiencing that, so that definitely affected me. Yeah. And so another thing, so it's seeing my mother deal with depression, but I think the most challenging struggle that I personally have to deal with as of late is, I think, my last relationship, like just the heartbreak that came with that. Me and my ex, we spent like almost 7 years together, and I think like common law, that's pretty much marriage, right? Yeah. We grew up from college and then transitioning into adulthood, all of those things. And so when it ended, it was like almost it felt like a divorce in a sense, because you're essentially breaking away from somebody that you were one with at some point. And so it was just that heartbreak of dealing with that and having to go through that, and kind of knowing that in my heart of hearts that I necessarily wasn't ready for something that powerful and something that profound at that age. And so I knew that there was a lot of things internally that I had to deal with, that I had to work on. And so from that, but going through that, yet and still, although I was kind of like mentally ready for it, it was just like, it was tough. it was day in and day out of just, you know, going through these different emotions of guilt. Like what could I have done better to save the relationship, or things that I did do, you know, that I wasn't proud of. All of these different things you go through in your head, and it's like a day in and day out type of thing. And so I had never experienced something like that before, like a heartbreak. And so just that, man, that was at least a year or so of me just every day just trying to just figure it out day by day, right? But that shit was tough, and it's nobody. Although people can, you know, give advice and console you, they're not going through that personally, so they don't. It's different when you're the one that actually has to go through that day in and day out. So I think that was like the most challenging thing that I've personally had to deal with today.
Yeah, and I can relate to that. You know, that abandonment.
Yeah.
You know, having somebody that you used to for so long, and then all of a sudden you laying around and you like,
and you by yourself.
By myself, like this shit don't feel good, like.
And that was until you said that, man, like that was the main thing. It was because right when that happened, I had just moved into my own spot, first time living on my own. So in a way, the guy set it up that way where it was just me and him. Mm-hmm. I didn't have anything, no crutch or nobody else to lean on. It was just me and myself, and me having to face myself in that process. And I had never done that to that extent prior to. So that was just a whole journey, man, and a spiritual journey really in itself. But I'm proud and I'm thankful that I went through that.
Right. So being that you went through dealing with, you know, the depression that your mother had and dealing with that last breakup, like what did you do? I mean, you kind of explained it already.
Yeah.
How did you learn to overcome or live with those two challenges that you had?
Yeah, I would say, man, first and foremost, number one, really is the man above. Like, I kid you not. That's always kind of been my place of solace whenever I'm going through stuff, whether it's, you know, prayer, whether it's, you know, reading the Bible and getting into the word, watching sermons, just anything I could do to fill my spirit up with these things. That was like my primary source. And then I had family. And then of course I had, you know, healthy outlets like music that I've been doing, sports. And then also a big part of that was starting to go into therapy. Therapy really helped a lot.
That's all I do.
Yeah, so it's like, and it's like, that's the thing people don't understand. You need all of these tools at your disposal to be able to overcome stuff. And even having all of those tools, it was still hard. So I just kept, you know, kept my head down, and day by day, just worked through it, really got through it the best I could.
So being that you dealt with this hard situation or situations,
yeah,
what were some of the other struggles you had throughout your life, like your life struggles?
Other struggles, I would say just staying on the right path. Mm-hmm. Like I learned, like I knew, you know, very early that I was different than a lot of people, that I was destined for something different. Like I just knew that. I felt that even if I didn't know how to articulate it. So I think with that is, because of that, that's a big burden. That's something that you can't take lightly. Yeah. So I had to really process all of that and accept that, and really just work on being the right person to even take that head on. And so I think growing up, you know, as a kid, it wasn't as apparent as it is now, but throughout my whole life of being on this earth, that's always kind of been my struggle, is like, am I going to, you know, fit in, or am I going to stand out? And I'm going to really, you know, have confidence in myself to really push and really shine my light, you know, for the world to see. And so that was something that I always I battled with for a long time. I wasn't ready. I was just scared of all of that. So overcoming that, I would say.
So what did you do to get there?
Really just getting myself right. Like I said, you know, this last experience with my breakup, like it was that. And then, I mean, at that point I had before, so after that happened, it got to the point where I experienced every different emotion you can imagine. From, you know, death. I had, you know, some deaths in the family that were close loved ones throughout the years. You know, coming to LA and transitioning, just being stable, you know, like dealing with not having enough, or not having a lot, rather. I wouldn't say enough, you always have enough, but just not having a overflow. So having to learn how to just be patient and save my money. All of any different emotion that you can think of in life. At this point now, I've experienced it. So it was just knowing that, you know, one day it'll be better. And so I was telling myself, it won't always be this way whenever I'm going through those tough times. And so that's kind of how I kind of looked at everything.
So my next question is, what are some of the daily struggles that you deal with that are kind of holding you back from your fullest potential?
I would say I don't know that there's well, I can't say that they're not necessarily daily struggles. There are definitely daily struggles. The main thing is negative thinking. You know, I could be just chilling one day, just chilling on my crib, and a negative thought pops into my head, and then you can slowly but surely get into the rabbit hole. You start thinking about something else, like a offense or something that somebody did to you, and then automatically again, then you thinking negative. So, I think the main thing for me is the negativity, like not letting it even occupying my mind, because the thing about it is you can't have negative and positive emotions in your head at the same time. Like, it doesn't work like that. It's either one or the other. And to be negative is easy, but to be positive every day, that's hard. That's like a real, legit job and practice, right? So I would say that, and then I think another thing, and I'm better than what I was before, is really just having control over my flesh, and that could be, what I consume. That can be sexual, all these different type of things in which it manifests itself. But it's just like trying to be led by my spirit be led by my spirit rather than being led by my flesh. That's an everyday struggle, because temptation is there every single day and it's not going away. So it's about having a discipline to be able to overcome those things, I think.
So what do you do on a daily basis to, break away from that?
I think, again, my routine on a great day is just starting with something inspirational, whether it's spiritual or just, motivational speaking. I think it's checking in with my loved ones, speaking to my family, my mom, my dad, my brothers, my friends, whoever. Just having that nourishment by talking to them. It's focusing on these different visions that I have. The nonprofit that we talked about, music, cannabis delivery service, which also I'm a part of. Me and my mother's family-owned business. Shout out Euphorium, that's the name of it. Quick plug in the Bay Area. But I just have so many different things, honestly, that can occupy my mind on any given day. That it really shouldn't be a reason why I have those issues, really, because I have so many other things I can focus on. So just filling my time up with as much positive and healthy habits as possible, I think.
Okay. Being that you've been through all these things, what is your outlook on life now, being where you are?
My outlook on life now is that I feel fearless. I feel, invincible in a sense. Like there's never going to be something that's going to happen to me or happen to somebody that I'm around that affects me that I won't push through and persevere through. And so I think that's the beauty of these struggles and these challenges. It's not necessarily what you're going through in those moments, but it's how you overcome those moments. And when you come on the other side of that, the testimony, the story that we're able to tell from that. So I would just say, that's how I kind of look at it. Like, let's get it. Like, what more can the devil or this world throw at me that I can sidestep and maneuver through with God's favor and grace and strength and all that stuff. But that's really just the main thing. Really, that's my mentality now.
That's beautiful. So the next thing is, what's your ultimate goal in life?
That's a great question. I think the ultimate goal for me is to. Well, it's really three things, and I kind of think about this a lot. So this is the perfect question. Is to one, be the person that God created me to be.
Amen.
It's two, to do the things He created me to do, and then lastly is to see myself the way that He sees me. So I feel like if I each and every day I make a concerted effort to work towards those three things, then my job on this earth is done, right? Because I'm at the point now where I'm not living for my life, my physical realm right now. I'm living for, when I pass away. Right. And generations come, that my name and what I've done, what I've accomplished is still going to be here. That legacy, right? That I could pass down for generations to come. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it right now and forever, really.
So now we have my last and final question.
Yes, sir.
If you were to give somebody advice that looks like you or that has been through some of the things that you've been through, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to do whatever you need to do to know yourself and know really your purpose on this earth is as much as possible. I don't know if there's a threshold where you'll ever get to 100% because that's perfection, and none of us on this earth is perfect. But I think that just as long as you're waking up each and every day to really truly yourself in your heart, you can say I'm waking up each and every day to give my best and be my best self. That's really it, man. Like, I think everything that people want in life comes from those things, and just being able to be real with yourself and self-assess and self-correct and do all of these things to just, at some point get to a level of self-mastery. That's really it. That's what I would say.
Life is all about growing up.
Exactly.
Doing the things you want to do, and then also to be yourself.
That's probably most important. But the thing is, we say that too, and we know I'm sure everybody in this room or anybody that's watching may, essentially for the most part know themselves. But there's younger people maybe coming up who don't have that knowledge of self, and so you can easily get lost in your way or not find your way if you're trying to be somebody that you're not. And so I think, like you said, being yourself or finding yourself first, so you know how to be yourself is crucial.
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us and telling the world about Bryce Savoy, the Black Neighborhood, Independence. You know what I'm saying?
All that.
Check him out on social media. Let them know what your social media is.
Yep. So anybody can find me on socials, Instagram and Twitter and YouTube, Bryce Savoy 510, and also my website, brycesavoy.com. Those are the 4 places in which you can get all things Bryce Savoy, Black Neighborhood. Also follow the Black Neighborhood at the Black Neighborhood, exactly how it sounds on Instagram, and then theblackneighborhood.org, man.
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate you taking time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
I just want you to know